Good morning. I'm Bryle Banzuela. I'm 22 years old from Nasuy, Bulan, Sorsogon. I am third year college studying electrical technology at Sorsogon State University. I'm here today to talk about the 9 types of listening. Before I proceed to the main topic, first, we need to know the meaning of listening. What is listening? Listening is the cognitive process whereby we attach meaning to oral signals. It is the active intellectual process of decoding, interpreting, understanding, and evaluating messages. Listening involves making sense of spoken language, normally accompanied by other sounds and visual input, with the help of our relevant prior knowledge and the context in which we are listening. Listening skill can no longer be described as passive and receptive, but an active one because it demands a conscious interaction between the receiving stimuli and the organisms doing the receiving. Okay, now we will proceed to main topic. What are the 9 types of listening? The first type of listening is discriminative listening. It is the first form of listening humans develop as babies. This basic type of listening presides the understanding of words and relies on tone of voice and other subtleties of sound to understand meaning and intention. Babies don't understand words, but they rely on other discriminative listening to understand who is speaking and what mood is being communicated. As an adult, you may find yourself relying on discriminative listening when people around you are speaking a foreign language that you don't understand. Though you may lack the language skill to understand the words being spoken, you can rely on the tone of voice and inflection to derive a vague meaning. When you can only rely on discriminative listening, you may turn to visual stimuli. The mannerism, facial expressions, and body language of a speaker help clue you to the speaker's message. The next type of listening is comprehensive listening. Comprehensive listening is the next level of critical listening skills that humans usually develop in early childhood. Comprehensive listening requires basic language skills and vocabulary to understand what is being communicated through a speaker's words. Comprehensive listening is the overall category that covers most other form of listening that critical listeners utilize. Through the course of their day-to-day lives, people use comprehensive listening paired with verbal cues to understand what messages are being communicated to them. Next is informational listening. Informational listening or informative listening is the type of listening people use when they are trying to learn. Informational listening builds upon basic, comprehensive listening and requires a high level of concentration and engagement to understand new concepts and comprehend technical jargon. Informational listening has less to do with the emotional content of what is being communicated and more to do with critical thinking and following a logical sequence as it is communicated. When you try to learn important skills that are being taught to you, it's vital that you pay attention and use informational listening skills. Fourth is critical listening. Critical listening is the style of listening people use when they are trying to analyze and judge complex information that is being communicated to them. You might use critical listening if you're problem solving on the job and trying to decide if you agree with a proposal being floated by one of your coworkers. The word critical has multiple meanings, but in this case, it is simply means that you are evaluating information, not necessarily passing judgment. Next is biased listening. Biased listening or selective listening is a type of listening behavior demonstrated when someone is just listening for information that they want to hear. Biased listening is different from critical listening because The listener is not honestly evaluating the validity of the speaker's opinions, but rather is looking to confirm previously held biases. People are often unaware that they are using a biased listening process. Biased listening can lead to a distortion of facts in the mind of a listener who is not tuned into what a speaker intends to communicate. 6 is sympathetic listening. Sympathetic listening is an emotionally driven type of relationship listening, wherein a listener processes the feelings and emotions of a speaker and tries to provide support and understand in return. You might use sympathetic listening when a child tells you about trouble they had at school. In this case, you use a sympathetic listening styles to make the child feel heard and give them support and comfort. Sympathetic listening is an important type of listening to use when trying to establish a deep connection with another person, especially when the person is experiencing adversity. Next is therapeutic listening. The therapeutic listening or empathic listening is a listening process wherein a listener tries to understand the point of view of a speaker and imagine themselves directly in the speaker's position. Empathetic listening, sometimes referred to as empathic listening, goes a step further than sympathetic listening in that an empathic listener will relate the speaker's experience as if it were their own. 8 is digital listening. Digital listening refers to the process of identifying and analyzing the opinion of your customers about your product or service through digital communication channels. Fortunately, there are multiple channels through which marketers can effectively interact with customers. Therefore, digital listening should ideally take place across multiple channels, which is turn will enable marketers to get a balanced report regarding their brand. The last is social listening. Social media listening is a process aimed at reputation management and market research in which relevant content and conversations identified from social media sites such as blogs, social networks, forums, and blogs are then placed into context to provide insight to inform customer engagement, collaboration, and new product development. Social listening is sometimes also known as social media monitoring or social media intelligence. Social media intelligence is the management and analysis of customer data from social sources used to activate, recalibrate marketing and business programs. This doesn't really explain what involves, so at a practical level, it explained by saying it involves monitoring keywords mentioned across social networks. That's all. This the summary of my report. The first type of listening is discriminative listening. Second, comprehensive listening. Third, informational listening. Fourth is critical listening. Fifth, biased listening. Sixth, sympathetic listening. 7, digital listening. 8, social listening. And last, therapeutic listening and empathetic listening. That's all. Thank you. Bye.